Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard just dropped another bombshell update. According to reporters close to the Obamas, Barack Obama is very agitated with the truth coming out about his coup attempt against President Trump. Trump calls for Nancy Pelosi to be investigated by someone for insider trading, as Democrats say Trump is a big, mean bully. Lots to go through today. Let's jump right in. Thank you guys for supporting this channel by giving it likes and hitting that subscribe button. Let's get right to the news. According to reporters in Washington, D.C., close to the Obama family, Barack Hussein Obama is very agitated with all of the truth coming out about his attempt to take down Donald Trump. In fact, a past NPR interview had him basically show how he was going to do the crime. Let's go ahead and watch this together. I think you'll find this fascinating.
Obama may have given us a smoking gun, sir.
He did, yeah. He's either the first clairvoyant president in American history because he seemed to know on December 19th, before the CIA had redone the intelligence committee assessment, what its outcome was, or more likely, he knew the fix was in. This is an interview he gives NPR, and I guess he forgot that they hadn't done the work yet. So he tells NPR he expects the CIA to reverse itself and conclude that Vladimir Putin tried to help Donald Trump. The problem is the CIA hasn't really even started the work. It just got going. And he's so embarrassed, he comes back later and tries to walk it back a little bit. Oh, things are still going on. We'll have to see where it goes. It is the sort of proof that John Durham should have found in his investigation, but didn't. But for this point going forward, when you try to prove, let's just say, long 10-year conspiracy, this is a really, really significant piece of evidence. And I'll walk people back to Watergate because you mentioned it for a second. The moment Republicans bolted on Richard Nixon, the epic event that caused them to do is when they got the tapes and they realized that Nixon had asked the CIA to try to stop the FBI from investigating the burglary. By the way, the CIA didn't do it, but the mere fact that a president would consider asking the CIA to do something political, it was enough for an entire party to bolt on their president. Here, Obama asked the CIA to come up with a concocted thing, and he seems to know the outcome before the work's even done. You've got the FBI pressuring the CIA to put a bogus Christopher Steele document in the intelligence assessment. And of course, you got the FBI helping Hillary Clinton carry out the whole dirty trick. It is epically, just on the standards of Watergate, it is epically worse than anything we saw in Watergate. And the Democratic Party just yawns at it in our face every day. That's why consequences matter. If we don't punish this behavior, we're going to go from the greatest constitutional republic the world has known to a perennial banana republic.
This Obama interview, I'm not going to show it to you because of copyright, but basically he tells that the CIA is going to reverse course and find that Trump and Putin were colluding together. But as John Solomon said there, the CIA hadn't even begun their research, which would later show that there was no collusion. There was no favoring of Donald Trump over Hillary Clinton. So Barack Obama, he's toast. This guy is done. Now, he's probably going to get away with these crimes because of his presidential immunity, but it's going to destroy his reputation. And that's probably the best that we're going to get. Now, as John Solomon said, we've got to hold people accountable or else our country falls apart. Trump top advisor Peter Navarro was jailed by Nancy Pelosi. And he says that every single person around Obama and Hillary Clinton must be held accountable. Let's go ahead and watch this together. I think you'll find it fascinating.
Now, let me just really shift gears radically because I want to talk a little bit about the Russia hoax, the Grassley report, and the Durham Annex, which came out last week. I had been working with Senator Grassley's office. I got to give him three cheers because he's been working relentlessly to get out the information about the Russia hoax. And here's what I want to say. I went to prison, as did Steve Bannon, for defending the Constitution. But there isn't a single person associated with the Russia hoax that's been held accountable. And the list is a long one. It goes Obama, Clinton, FBI Director Comey and other people worked there, like Page and Strzok. It involved the intelligence community in Brennan and Clapper, and the importance of the Durham Annex. The importance of the Durham Annex is that ties it all together and brings also in George Soros and his son Alex and the Open Society Foundation. And this is the most sophisticated political scandal that's ever been engineered. No one's been held accountable. Good for Attorney General Pam Bondi for pursuing that. And the most important thing I can tell you, if people are not held accountable for the Russia hoax, they will do it again. If people are not held accountable, they will do it again. And
listen to what he just said. If they're not held accountable, they will absolutely do it again. He's not wrong. In fact, a new bombshell revelation came out from Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard. She's accusing former DNI James Clapper of manipulating intelligence. He was part of the Hunter Biden laptop, the 2020 election rig. He was part of the Obama, but now she's saying she has documentation proving that he was part of the flawed Iraq war weapons of mass destruction lie. And because he was never held accountable, he's been able to continue to go on national TV as a celebrity and share this information. But he needs to be held accountable. Let's see what she had to say about James Clapper, former director of national intelligence.
James Clapper was on the team that created, that manufactured intelligence assessment that led to the Iraq war, about the Iraq WMDs. He writes about it in his book, saying that he and his team of intelligence analysts created something that was not there. When you look at his actions then, and you look at his actions in 2016 as Obama's director of national intelligence, you see someone who has no problem whatsoever politicizing and manufacturing and weaponizing intelligence for a political outcome.
He does not care about America. He only cares about power and using his influence to manipulate people. It's bad. And because he hasn't been held accountable, a million Arabs were murdered by America because of the weapons of mass destruction lie. Do you understand that? Thousands of American soldiers dead. $9 trillion wasted. America, think how great America could be if we hadn't wasted $9 trillion on wars in the Middle East that literally resulted in nothing because of losers like James Clapper being able to lie. So weapons of mass destruction, the Obama bullcrap, the Hunter Biden laptop, the 2020 election, on and on and on. If people aren't held accountable and they are dangerous, they will continue to be dangerous to all of us. All right. Now, earlier today, President Trump announced that he is taking over. He's federalizing Washington, D.C. He's sick and tired of the crime. Democrats say he's doing this to go after Democrats. No, he's not. He's doing it because your crime rates are out of control. You guys have lied and manipulated the data, but now tourists don't feel safe, that you've got people being attacked and murdered. He's done with it. However, President Trump, he's a natural comedian. I mean, Democrats aren't laughing, but the rest of us are. He's got the newbie that he just put in charge where he's telling him, hey, if you don't come down hard on these criminals, you're going to be out of a job. I'm actually going to have to fire you. Listen to what President Trump said. This guy is so funny.
All of these people are really tough. Could I shake your hand, Getty, please? You're going to be so important here. You're going to be that guy. I hope I don't have to fire him in 2 weeks because he's too soft. I don't think he's too soft. If I do, I will, though. Is it okay if you're soft, weak, and pathetic like so many people? I will fire you so fast. You're not going to have to worry about that. No, I think you're going to do a fantastic job.
Such a comedian, but he's dead serious about cleaning up Washington, D.C. He wants it to be a beautiful place. He ended up going a little bit deeper on this topic. In fact, he told a story about his dad where he said, listen, son, if the front of the restaurant is dirty, the back of the restaurant is dirty. Don't eat there. He said, that's what's going on in Washington, D.C. It's just become dirty. And nobody wants to be, a part of that. But let me have you just listen to a little bit more about what the president had to say about Washington, D.C.
Watch them. The police are standing, and they're told, don't do anything under any such of this, and you can see they want to get at it. And they're standing there, and people are spitting in their face, and they're not allowed to do anything. But now they are allowed to do whatever the hell they want.
Whatever the hell they want. As if police have been not doing anything before this, Eddie. What do you make of that? Whatever the hell they want.
Chris, to be honest with you, I'm trying to hold my temper. I think there's an ongoing argument that he's having in his head with Black Lives Matter. There's an ongoing argument that he's having with the questions around criminal justice reform and police reform. It's interesting that he really doesn't really care about what's actually happening in D.C. on a certain level, because he's not trying to get at the underlying root causes. He's not looking at examples of how to address rising crime rates that doesn't require a form of policing that leads to increased incarcerality and the like. Let's look at what's going on in Baltimore. Let's look at what's happening actually in places like Baltimore and Chicago, right? So part of what we have to do is to understand. And Oakland, we have to understand this, Chris, within the context of Donald Trump's racial politics and within the context of his effort to get Epstein off the front pages. I understand David's point, but when we try to treat this as a rational response, then we lose sight of the actual politics that's being played here. And he's actually trying to give his base red meat to get them off of the Epstein story. And it's on the backs of citizens in Washington, D.C. He's going to undermine the democratic process in the district. And so I understand what David is trying to say, but we need to be clear about what Donald Trump is doing.
These guys are grasping at straws like I've never seen before. A couple nights ago, they were saying there is no rising crime. Tonight, they admit there's rising crime, but Trump needs to do something about it. And that doesn't mean federalizing the police and making more arrests, holding more people accountable. And then they list all of these most dangerous cities, which are all Democrat-run cities. And they're saying he's not doing enough. And why is he doing all this? Why is he going after Black people and people of color and people that commit crimes? So that you don't think about Jeffrey Epstein. These guys, they're so pathetic. Oh, I think he's having a ongoing argument with Black Lives Matter. Well, Black Lives Matter was a corrupt organization that raised money off of Black people. It did exactly nothing for Black people. The two Black lesbians that ran the organization bought themselves mansions in white neighborhoods and then took that money and funded LGBTQ2SA, mostly trans stuff. You can look all of this up. Their main mission was to disrupt the nuclear family, not to help Black people. That's why you don't hear about it anymore. Even Black people don't give a crap about the Black Lives Matter organization. Now, of course, Black Lives Matter, but these guys weren't doing anything for Black Americans. Anyway, these guys, they're grasping at straws, trying to make Trump look racist and terrible in any way that they can. But it's not going to stick. It's absolutely not going to stick. All right, let me just take a quick commercial break and tell you about today's video sponsor. If you're a homeowner, you need to listen to this. In today's AI and cyber world, scammers are stealing home titles and your equity is the target. Here's how it works. Criminals forge your signature on one document, use a fake notary stamp, pay a small fee with your county recorder, and just like that, your home title has been transferred out of your name. Then they take out loans using your equity or even sell your property, and you don't know it's happened until you get a collection or foreclosure notice. So when's the last time you checked your home's title? If your answer is never, you need to do something about it right now. That's why I've partnered with Home Title Lock, so you can find out today if you're already a victim. Use my promo code Gardner at HometitleLock.com and you'll get a free title history report and a free trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. That's 24/7 monitoring on your title, urgent alerts to any changes, and if fraud does happen, they'll spend up to $1 million to fix it. Go to HometitleLock.com and use promo code Gardner. That's HometitleLock.com, promo code Gardner. All right. Much like President Trump did with Senator Adam Schiff and his alleged mortgage fraud of 10 plus years, President Trump is calling attention to Nancy Pelosi and how she became fabulously wealthy while being a public servant. Crooked Nancy Pelosi and her very interesting husband beat every hedge fund in 2024. In other words, these two very average minds beat all of the super geniuses on Wall Street, thousands of them. It's all inside information. Is anyone looking into this? She is a disgusting degenerate who impeached me twice on no grounds and lost. How are you feeling now, Nancy? So President Trump does not want this to fall out of the media cycle. He doesn't care what they say about him, that he's crazy or deranged. He's keeping this at the forefront of someone's mind so that somebody like the hero Sam Antar that officially busted Letitia James will look into Nancy Pelosi. And just a week or so ago, Senator Josh Hawley called for an investigation into former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi for alleged insider trading, spotlighting her and her husband, Paul Pelosi's stock trading activities. Senator Hawley, pushing the Pelosi Act, claimed Pelosi has profited from non-public information. He argued that such actions warrant prosecution and investigation, and her winnings are ridiculous. How does a bird brain alcoholic like Nancy Pelosi outperform thousands of geniuses on Wall Street? It doesn't make any sense unless there is insider trading. So this is all that Trump is trying to do. He's trying to get somebody, anybody but himself, to do this investigation. And the call for her to be investigated by Josh Hawley, he's trying to keep that in the news cycle. Democrats, however, say Donald Trump is a bully that has nothing better to do than harass a woman who gave her entire career to being a government servant. Are you kidding me, Democrats? Do you know any servant who went from nothing to hundreds of millions of dollars, picking stocks better than every fund manager in America? Do you know any servants that did that? I don't. So I think that this investigation absolutely needs to go forward. Okay, the Trump administration is contemplating releasing transcript and audio from a 2-day, 9-hour Department of Justice interview with Ghislaine Maxwell, conducted by Todd Blanche. The interview aimed to uncover details about others involved in the Jeffrey Epstein trafficking ring, marking the DOJ's first direct engagement with Ghislaine Maxwell on the topic. Maxwell serving a 20-year sentence for her role in the Epstein crimes, where she trafficked a bunch of people to nobody. Now they are trying to release these transcripts. her lawyer, David Marcus, said, hey, whoa, wait a minute. This was productive. She never pled the fifth. She was informative. She gave out names, sensitive information, talked about victims and crimes, and this should remain sealed. So this is a tough one because on the one hand, she cooperated and told the truth because she thought it would be sealed. On the other hand, the Trump administration is trying to balance protecting victims with giving voters what they want, details on Jeffrey Epstein and his crimes. I don't know. Let me know in the comments. What do you think? On the topic of public health, RFK Jr. has argued that SNAP, commonly known as food stamps, is the reason we have worsening diabetes in America. He pointed out that 18% of all SNAP money is spent on sugary soda and candy, and that this has contributed to nearly 40% of American children developing juvenile diabetes. Kennedy stressed taxpayers should not be putting up money so that struggling Americans can buy sugar soda and candy, snacks, and treats. That they're literally being poisoned so that then the insurance companies can pick up on sick Americans. He said it's a broken system that absolutely needs to be fixed. So he is working on that right now. Now, let me know in the comments. I don't know if any of you are on food stamps, but whether you are or aren't, should taxpayer dollars go to subsidizing a bunch of sugary drinks and candy, likely contributing to the fact that so many Americans have chronic illness? So many Americans are obese, some morbidly obese. And almost 20%, 20 cents out of every dollar goes to sugar soda and candy. I didn't know that. That's wild. All right. The other day, I told you how RFK Jr. canceled $500 million in mRNA funding and 22 new mRNA vaccines. He now publicly says why he did this. I think it's fascinating. Let's go ahead and watch this together so that you guys better understand this.
Hi, it's Robert F. Kennedy Jr. here, your HHS secretary. At HHS, we have a division called the Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority, or BARDA. BARDA drives some of our most advanced scientific research. It funds developments of vaccines, drugs, diagnostics, and other tools to fight emerging diseases and national health threats. Over the past few weeks, BARDA reviewed 22 mRNA vaccine development investments and began canceling them. Let me explain why. Most of these shots are for flu or COVID, but as the pandemic showed us, mRNA vaccines don't perform well against viruses that infect the upper respiratory tract. Here's the problem. mRNA only codes for a small part of the viral proteins, usually a single antigen. One mutation and the vaccine becomes ineffective. This dynamic drives a phenomena called antigenic shift, meaning that the vaccine paradoxically encourages new mutations and can actually prolong pandemics as the virus constantly mutates to escape the protective effects of the vaccine. Millions of people, maybe even you or someone you know, caught the Omicron variant despite being vaccinated. That's because a single mutation can make mRNA vaccines ineffective. The same risk applies to flu. After reviewing the science and consulting top experts at NIH and FDA, HHS has determined that mRNA technology poses more risks than benefits for these respiratory viruses. That's why, after extensive review, BARDA has begun the process of terminating these 22 contracts totaling just under $500 million. To replace the troubled mRNA programs, we're prioritizing the development of safer, broader vaccine strategies, like whole virus vaccines and novel platforms that don't collapse when viruses mutate. Let me be absolutely clear. HHS supports safe, effective vaccines for every American who wants them. That's why we're moving beyond the limitations of mRNA for respiratory viruses and investing in better solutions.
All right. So all of their research shows that mRNA was more dangerous than COVID. And people that got their vaccines still ended up with COVID and Omicron. It was basically useless, even though a lot of people are like, oh, well, I would have been hospitalized, or I would have got it much worse. No, the reality is you were lied to so that Big Pharma could pocket $200 billion in profits. Now, the real scientists are in. They're looking at this going, why on earth would we put $500 million into a technology that literally sucks? So they're working on better vaccines, safer vaccines. They're getting rid of aluminum, thimerosal, mercury, all of that getting removed so that if you want a vaccine, if you believe in vaccines, you have a safer, more effective vaccine technology. Pretty cool. All right. In global affairs, the United States appears ready to take real steps towards cutting off funding for the war in Ukraine. Vice President J.D. Vance declared in a Fox News interview that President Trump and the United States are done funding the war. It is time to bring it to an end. This will be part of the Russia-United States talks later this week with Vladimir Putin in the great state of Alaska. J.D. Vance stated, "We're done funding the Ukraine war business. We want to bring about a peaceful settlement to this thing. The Kremlin has proposed a ceasefire that would give Russia control over eastern Ukraine, a move strongly opposed by Zelensky, who tweeted that these decisions must be made by Ukraine, not the United States of America." Well, you can make your own decisions. You just can't do it with our money anymore. All right, I'll have more for you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you could, give this video a like, hit that subscribe button, stay amazing, and I will see you on the next video.